Hey guys, Ted here, and I am going to give you my 5 recovery race rules, or my 5 recovery tips after a race. So yesterday I did a half marathon, and it was a hard trail run half marathon, and I was hurting at the end of the race. And for those of you that have done a 5K or a 10K or half marathon or full marathon or Ironman, it doesn't, whatever race you've done, you know that you put this time in, you put the effort in, and then you push yourself harder probably during the race than you did in training, and then you need to recover. And it's so important to recover well, especially during training, because then you get to train harder and you get stronger and you can race more, which is really fun. So yesterday I finished my race and I crossed the finish line and I was like, and the volunteer was there and he's like, oh, let me take your timing chip. I was like, okay, I just need a minute. And then he's like, oh, well, you can put your foot up on the thing. And I swear, I could barely breathe. I was like, I said, okay, I need a minute. And he's like, oh, well, I'll come down. I was like, dude, I need a minute. Will you please let me catch my breath? I just sprinted for 13.1 miles. Anyway, so after I coughed up my lung at the finish of the race, and I gave the guy my timing chip, I then went and had my recovery drink. So, rule number 1, recovery drink. As soon as you can, within 30 to 45 minutes, whichever one you want. A lot of you know I work with Beachbody, and so I love that's what I use, the Beachbody Performance line, but you can use Vega, you can use any one that you want, right? So the next thing is a stretch. So I'm gonna actually show you a couple little stretches here, and the first thing I do is just hang forward. So the first thing, and you can do this now even if you wanted to, we got a couple minutes to do a little stretch. So the first thing I do is just hang forward here. So, and it's nice because at the end of a race, typically you're tired. If you're running or if you're cycling, you know, your legs need a little stretch, your back needs a little stretch. And then I'll grab my hands behind my back and I'll stretch the shoulders here a bit. And typically if you're tighter, you can also bend the legs slightly. So a slight bend in the knees is fine, but a nice little shoulder stretch here. And then typically from here, I will go into a squat. So today's the day after, so I'm a bit more flexible. I can come down into my squat. The first day, sometimes like immediately after the race, sometimes this is one of the hardest things to do. And you might not even be that flexible, which is why I brought my second mat for you. So you can see what happens if you lift your heels up. So you lift your heels up like this. It's a lot easier to get into the squat. So that's totally fine. But squat is really good for you because you're stretching your lower back, you're stretching your quadriceps, and you're stretching your calf and your Achilles too. So it's a great thing to do. And I'll just sit here and I'll just relax. It's one of my favorite things to do after a race or even the day after a race. But so those 2 stretches are really great. I'm just going to get back in that squat. Another thing that I like to do is with my feet out a little bit is I like to sort of move side to side here. So I'm still a little tight from yesterday, but just a little movement, and this helps to get the quads. Downward facing dog is another one. So I'll straighten the leg. Down dog is always a good stretch for the calves and the Achilles. So I'll bend one leg and really press down into downward facing dog. Oh boy, oh boy. And then the other side. And I don't really care if people look at me and make fun of me and think, oh, there's that yoga guy at the race, because yesterday I placed first in my division, so I get to do whatever I want. All right. And then I'll typically, if I can, I'll sit down here and stretch the top of my feet and the shins. So this one can be really intense. Even if you haven't done a race, can be really intense for a lot of people. Again, here's a trusty little use for the second mat. And by the way, this could be a pillow or a blanket or anything. But from here, what you can do is just put it underneath your ankles. If you put it underneath your ankles, it relieves some of the pressure, but you still get a pretty great stretch. So that's another really great stretch for you there. And then of course, one of my all-time favorites is a pigeon pose Right, so from downward facing dog, where you stretched, you can always go to pigeon here. And that's really good for your glutes, mine of which are sore right now, but also a little quad and a little hamstring. So you can stay there for a few moments. And then switch sides. Sometimes it doesn't take a long time. It doesn't take a lot of time. It just a little bit to break up some of that tightness, because the body is rebuilding itself. So what happens is when you push yourself really hard, you break down the muscles, but then they have to rebuild themselves. Thankfully they do. It's how we get stronger. It's called muscle adaptation. But it also needs a little bit of love and a little support. So some of the blood moving through there actually helps. And just by simple movements like that is really good. And then, so what was that? Recovery drink, and then stretch. And then number 3 is the foam roller. This might be my most prized possession. And it is called the Hyper Ice, and it's the Viper. The model is the Viper. And it vibrates. So this is an amazing tool. And it's got 3 speeds. That was number 2, and that's number 3. I'm going to stick with 2 for now, and I'm going to start on my glute. Right, so I'm just going to kind of go right in there. And the cool thing about the vibration is it just makes it that much easier. If this was on a regular foam roller, it would be really, really intense, but the vibration makes it a little bit less intense. So, but you can also use like the generic, muscle vibrator thing that you get from CVS or wherever. It'll still be good for you to break up some of the tightness and stiffness. This also makes it a lot easier to go onto the IT band. So you can go onto the IT band. They're still hard if your IT bands are tough. But I like that. I also like my inner thighs. So the inner thighs too. So I'll do this here off to the side. So this will be a big, so the adductors can get super tight. So I'll move side to side this way, slowly. And you go as deep into the groin as you can, because that's the main hip socket. And then I'll pull out a little bit. And then sometimes I'll move the leg just to feel what it feels like. So much of this is really about your own exploration through your body. So, yeah. And then of course, probably one of the hardest things to do is the quadricep. Just right smack dab on the quad. And I'm always supporting this so you can, I don't know if you can see, but my left leg is actually down. My left knee is down, so, oh gosh. Oh. So you can sit with this. I can sit and do this for, a long time. So last night I think when I did it, I ran out of battery, so I had to charge it again. Because I think I must have been 40 minutes or so on this thing. But it was awesome. So, recovery drink, stretch, foam roll, which obviously you're not going to probably do right after the race, but when you get home at night. And then you have to make sure you're eating properly during the day and hydrating. So green leafy vegetables, protein. Your body needs protein to actually rebuild the muscles, because it's amino acids. That's what you're actually getting. So make sure you eat right. And then the final one is sleep. You have to get sleep. It's the best way you can recover. There are studies that show that if you take in some protein within an hour before sleep, your body will recover better overnight. So you'll actually feel a little bit less sore if you do that. And again, it's not a commercial for them, but there are some products. Beachbody Performance has Recharge, and it's an awesome product that I take sometimes on a big workout day, like a race. I'll take it an hour before bed, then I'll sleep. And there's incremental differences. All of these things, they're incremental differences, but it all helps. So there you have it. You have your recovery drink right after you cough up your lung, and then you have your stretch, and then eventually you get home, you have your foam roll. you have your nutrition and your hydration, because you definitely need to get in water, and then you have your sleep. And if you're a meditator like me, or a yoga person, you're obviously going to do yoga, but then a little short meditation could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, 15 minutes, but a visualization about healing is really, really important, and I think it helps me, and it's just one more thing I can add to my own recovery. All right, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.